Mathias Mpuuga Lop wa National Platform ali mu Parliament olwaleero atuuzizza bannamawulire ne bannayuganda n'abantu ab'enjawulo ku mitendera egy'enjawulo abakulembeze ng'annyonnyola eggwanga ku biki byatuuseeko mu kisanja kye kyakabeera Lop. Ebirungi byakoledde eggwanga Uganda byayambyeko ku bannankyukakyuka okulaba nga batuuka ku birooto n'ebyo byakoze okulaba ate ne binyiiza bunyiiza bannankyukakyuka byonna abigasse wamu n'asalawo abibuulira ensi era na biki ebirina okukolebwa okulaba nga tujjawo gavumenti ya General Kaguta Museveni amangu n'embiro. Twegatteko tugende ku Parliament gyatuuzizza olukuŋŋaana luno tumufune Mathias Mpuuga ebigambo abitugambe kale n'abantu ab'enjawulo abaliyo bonna boogere ekituufu ekigenda okutuyambako okulaba nga tutereeza Uganda n'okukomya okuteeka ekkomo obukulembeze General Kaguta Museveni Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert Bobwana asobola okulayira. Tutandise.
I think it's because the opposition in Parliament has been proactive in not simply talking about these things, but visited practically and highlighted these issues. The violations, land grabbing in the countryside. Those of you I traveled with to Luwero, in Zero. When we left, if you recollect, that village we visited in Zero, where the military, some military men and the RDC there had taken over the whole village. They have since disappeared because they brought those issues to bear to the community, to the public. It's because the opposition has been working. The problem is still, of course, big, of abusing our people on their land and settling them, especially by the powerful, by the regime operatives and the military, abusing our people on their property. We visited Chotera, where my brother Mpalanyi and unfortunately represent, how citizens have been really undermined on their land in the ECOP pipeline project. Now I'm told they're panicking and going back. But those people have petitioned Parliament, and I'm very sure the DO here are ready to represent their people and present their petition to Parliament. The long and short of this is that we have been able to bring out the issues that affect our people, and we have held government accountable on a number of violations and neglect. For example, you are aware we have an impending audit of the Central Forest Reserve, a matter that is still pending. I'm very sure my very able Minister of Environment, the Honorable, the indefatigable Christine Kaya, is ready with that. She's been talking about it over and over. We need to audit environmental degradation in this country, especially the giveaway of the Central Forest Reserve, wherever we have been. These are matters we have brought out. We visited the mining sector, a sector, together with fishing, we described as being mafia-led sectors. No doubt the mafia in charge of fishing, they are also in charge of mining. You saw this week what happened in Kalungu. One of the mafias that were told by the people of Kalungu is terrorizing them. Kalungu East. There is a learning site, I forget the name, Kamunga. Yeah, there is a terrorist called Kawesa. I'm told he was arrested last week with several tons of premature fish. So this is the fellow who's been terrorizing citizens and accusing them of illegal fishing. So he has over 100 boats and several tons of fish, premature fish, that he is logging and selling to DRC and other places. So he's a military man, being covered by military men and women, and the common people are suffering. I am happy with the opposition because we were able to bring out these people. They were in denial, now they are hunting each other. Very soon, the thieves will start accusing each other, and we are proud for bringing out that as the opposition. Of course, we set out also. One of the most difficult things in Parliament is legislation. making laws. First of all, very few members of parliament pay attention to lawmaking, partly because of limited knowledge of the process, but also the process is a bit intricate and technical and ends up being boring. I want to congratulate my team for caring for every bill that has come on the floor of parliament. The opposition has had a position it has provided. I can mention several legislations that have come. We have offered our view of the law. We have done a bill analysis of every other bill and offered an alternative. This information, for those who want to record for posterity, is available in print for you to share with the world on how we've been able to put on record all these issues. Of course, not forgetting that a number of my members have their own private members' bills. People like Dr. Bedi Bwanika has a bill, the contract farming bill. The Honorable Chiaga has a bill to amend the corporate and neighboring law. It's an advanced stage. Honorable Chivumbi got leave to amend the Public Finance Management Act, and several other colleagues with proposals that we are working on. That, for me, is a clear testament to the fact that our team understood very well what to do, and they have embarked on it. I have been here for some time, and we have expended the time without the opposition even mooting a proposal to amend any law or to provide any law. So this seemingly young and a bit novice team has, for me, scaled the heights in as far as appreciating this duty and undertaking to follow up on it. Of course, this wouldn't have been achieved without the very, very able support of our technical team. Every once and again, the technical team of the opposition is changed, and it takes a bit of time. You see, the work at Parliament is not work like any other place. It is very particular, very specific, sometimes intricate, in some cases confusing. But I want to congratulate Peter and the team for the job well done. The technical team has been working so well. They have provided very critical technical backstopping to these politicians. Politicians are not easy to work with. You don't listen, the media can listen. Politicians are not easy people. You want to go and support one Mwada, but he thinks he knows what he wants to do. He has to do it differently. You know, I'm using Mwada because I know he won't be angry about it. So we're not easy people. So the technical team has been very critical, but we have also trained them. They are a well-trained team, well-oiled to do their work. And I want to thank them for enabling us to do this work. Their capacity has been well built, and through the benchmarking visits they have undertaken to various jurisdictions with members of parliament on a number of things, we can speak the same language, which is why in the last financial year they were able to do something unique, to provide an alternative budget with an approach hitherto unknown to these spaces, what we call the human approach to budgeting. And I'm very sure until we explained its length and breadth, many people were confused as to what the opposition was up to. The country now understands that the budget is not a matter of cram work, that the budget can be oriented to certain things and make people feel different about the budget and its meaning to them. I want to thank the technical team for being receptive and open to change, because the politicians offer the framework, the benchmark, what they want to be done, and the job of the technical team is to polish that. We speak in raw form, but they have no space and luxury to work in raw form. They have to work in a refined form. So, Peter, Dr. Sozi, Dr. Walusimbi, the the team leaders, I want to congratulate you for making our work possible and smart. I don't think we have produced any shabby work. No, it's because we work with a very good team, an enabled team, and an able team, which is why we're here to thank them for supporting us, and I hope we continue doing the same in the next session of Parliament, because it's not yet uhuru for us. Invariably, all this happens with a lot of challenges. At the beginning of our term, I was asked what I envisage as the major obstacle to achieving our critical objectives. And I said today, I re-echo the same sentiments, that the major handicap to doing our work is that the government in power has never appreciated that the opposition exists legitimately and therefore does work backed by the law. A number of times the opposition is looked at as a bother, a huge bother, and dragging government work in some way. And when that is the sentiment expressed by those with power, authority of resources, authority of coercion, power to coerce, then you have a problem as the opposition. You recollect when we were doing our fieldwork, the Prime Minister of the Republic dared to say that I should not go back as if I am Hassan or subordinate. She did not does not believe that the opposition actually has a legal mandate to hold her in check. Of course, we defied her, aware that she was speaking out of turn. The sentiments expressed by the Prime Minister are the sentiments percolating and perforating down the echelons of government, that the opposition is a bother, the opposition is making the work impossible, we should do away with them. The movement mentality has never vacated some mind spaces and has constrained work. In fact, so many actors, including members of Parliament, look at the opposition as some funny outfit. But I'm glad that over time, part of our work has been education. We have been educating ourselves on our responsibility and also educating our adversaries of our duty. And I think over time they have appreciated our work. Thanks to my team for being assertive in what they've been doing, because you can only assert yourself to be understood in a certain way, and then your adversary will surrender to your insistence. It's because of the insistence that we've been able to do this work. Is our numerical strength a challenge? Yes, it's a challenge because for a house of 500 plus members, and you barely have a third of that, is a challenge. So for you to be able to be impactful on what you do, you must raise the threshold of what you do in terms of output. That has been our preoccupation. For you to be able to attract the attention of your adversary, you must be able to raise the quality of your output. Otherwise, if you are few and your output is so to speak, then of course you cannot really have the attention of your adversary. Thank you, my team, the political colleagues and the technical team, for being able to raise the threshold of our output to the extent that we cannot be ignored. It's very difficult. It's almost improbable to ignore the opposition in Parliament because we have raised the threshold of our work. Many challenges remain, but the challenges are not insurmountable. We're going to continue pushing what we believe in. At this stage in Parliament, there are very, very serious issues the House must resolve for posterity. The issues relating to violation of human rights, for me, are the most critical at this stage. If we do not resolve the current impasse where those with authority are not able to pronounce themselves and come clean of various gross violation of human rights, then any debate of politics does not make sense. Assuming that the country is preparing for an election in the next 2.5 years, how do you prepare for another activity when problems over the past activity have not been resolved? And this is where we are insistent that the opposition in and outside the parliament must find and summon the best of their energy to make sure that these issues are resolved. And that nobody should really introduce other issues until these issues are resolved. The issues are definitive of our intentions as leaders. They are defining of our legacy as political actors, and they remain in the annals of our history as matters this generation either resolved or cowardly failed to resolve. And I don't think the House of Parliament can act in a cowardly manner and run away from its obligation of ensuring that the history about us will be a history of courage, will be a history of determination, because the issues at hand are definitive and will speak to our legacy. I want once again to thank you, the media, for being a part of what we have been doing and continue to do, and I believe that when the media does work better, everybody works better. As a mirror of the public, the mirror should not be a bloody mirror. The mirror should be clear. The clarity of your reporting, the clarity of your analysis. When I say clarity of analysis, one of my friends, who is not yet here, in one of our meetings at my parade quarters, in his analysis, he analyzed how I looked at my president and his issue that Mpuuga's eyes and that of his president were not looking as friendly as... So I'm only saying that the quality of how the media analyzes the issues at hand is very important in shaping how society views the space occupied by politicians in this country. Nobody should occupy public space without consequence. And the consequence must be positive consequence. If it's going to be negative, then you have every reason to seek vacation of that space, because that space is very critical and consequential. I want to ask of my colleagues from the political wing to never shy away from the media, you know, and also speak to the media when you have knowledge. It's very dangerous for us to speak to the media when we don't have knowledge. But I'm glad many of my colleagues, where they do not know, they seek information before they speak out. It's the reason probably why we have been able to speak to the country with firmness, with authority, and with a direction that seeks to offer public good and echo our chosen motto of accountability and service. And because I said I don't want this to be a monologue, I thought I should highlight to you how we've been working and operating, so that you load your guns after listening to me, and then fire from all ranges without fear or favor. I thank you once again, and good morning once again.
Thank you so much, Lop. I think it's very interesting taking us through of what we have gone through in this year. And this is the time for the questions from the media. I would like to welcome all the other members of Parliament who have just arrived. I would like to tell you that the Honourable Santa Okot is here. She's our Shadow Minister for Regional Affairs. The Honourable Muwada Nkunyinji, our Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs. The Honourable Gilbert Ulanya, who is our chairperson for local governments. The Honourable Court, who is the DPG whip, and the rest of the members will be introduced. So we'd like to thank you. We are going to take questions from the media. Before we do that, I'd like in a very special way to welcome I know that the members of the press who are here, who are always part of us, who are under the Uganda Parliamentary Press Association, UPPA, but I would like in a special way to welcome Dick Mvule, an editor from Radio Simba. You're very much welcome. We used to be with Dick here in UPPA. You're very welcome, and thank you for paying attention to the work of the leader of the opposition. I'd like to welcome Paul Kayonga from Next Media Services. If you watch current affairs, you definitely know or have heard about Paul Kayonga. You're welcome, and thank you for paying attention to the work of the Office of the Leader of the Opposition, and certainly to current affairs. I'd also like to welcome a very special person, Becca Zena. The people who you never watch on TV, you probably never listen to them on radio, but they're behind the most powerful shows on those TV stations. Becca Zena is behind the production of all the current affairs shows on Next Media Services. You're welcome to this event. And we will be definitely welcoming many others. We would like to welcome the other members of Parliament. I can see the Honorable Kalwanga David Luchamuzi, who is the Member of Parliament for Busuju County in Mityana District, and is also our representative to the Commonwealth Parliament. Those of you who have questions about the Commonwealth Parliament, is here to respond to that. We would like to welcome the Honorable Nabukera Hanifa, the woman Member of Parliament for Mukono District. She is our Shadow Minister for Human Rights. I am very sure that the media is very much interested in the human rights issues pertaining, so she's available to respond to any questions. The Honorable Christine Kaya Nachimwero is the woman MP for Chiboga District and our Shadow Minister for Environment, Water and Environment. The Honorable Teddy Namboze, you're very welcome. She's our woman Member of Parliament for Mpigi District. The Honorable Etho Betty Narima is the woman MP for Wachiso District and our Shadow Minister for Local Government. I'd like to welcome the Honorable Joel Senyonyi, who is the MP for Nakawa East and West, and our chairperson for Kosase. You're welcome. He's also the spokesperson for the National Unity Platform, the leading opposition party in Uganda. The Honorable Lumo Richard is the Member of Parliament for Mityana South in Mityana District. You're welcome, and the Deputy Whip for the Democratic Party. The Honorable Alan Sebunya is the MP for Nakaseke. You're welcome. I can see a number of people who are very excited about the Honorable Alan. The Honorable Fortunate Nantongo is the woman MP for Chotera District and the Shadow Minister for Gender. You're welcome. The Honorable John Paul Mpalani. I can imagine the reason for the clapping. You're all welcome, and we'll be introducing the other members of Parliament and members of the Shadow Cabinet as they come in. Ladies and gentlemen, apologies. Dr. Apio Eunice. Well, you're welcome. Oyam North, she's a UPT member and our member. You're very much welcome. So we will take questions. I introduced Honorable Mwada. Yes. He's our Foreign Affairs Shadow Cabinet member. So we'll be taking the questions, and members of the press, this is what is going to happen. All the Shadow Cabinet members, okay, not all of them are yet here. Others are on the way. Dr. Bed said is on the way. Dr. Hildeman, Chiaga Hillary is also on the way, and many others. So you're going to be asking questions. Sadab Chita Takaya here is going to take around the microphone for whoever wants to ask a question. And you will indicate where you're directing your question. If the question is to the leader of the opposition, he will definitely respond. If you need a response from a particular Shadow Cabinet member in that particular docket, again, that person will be ready to respond. For those who are not yet here, the shadow cabinet members who are not here, definitely the leader of the opposition will be taking the questions. So you're welcome to ask those questions, and we are here to respond to those questions. Thank you. So I think we'll be taking maybe three questions. We'll be taking 3 questions, they respond, and then you ask other questions. You introduce yourself and the media house that you're representing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable. My name is Dick Mvule. I'm an editor at Radio Simba. Mine goes to the leader of opposition. Honorable Mpuuga, you realize that there has been a culture in the opposition, and you realize that Honorable Latigo handed over to Honorable Nandala Mafabi handed over to Wafula handed over to Winnie Kiza handed over to Honorable Wall, and then you took up the mantle. After 2 years of 2.5 years, do you see yourself continuing as the Lop, or you are going to hand over to another person? I know you poked us when you were starting your statement, but I thought I should ask this question without fear or favor. Although you are my friend, it had to come. Then the other question is that how do you explain the thin ground of your members, the cabinet members? You realize that only a handful are here, although Honorable the spokesperson has said that many are coming, but after 2 years, this should be a milestone, you know. They should not have any excuse of not being here. How do you explain that? And in the introductions, I've not seen any person being introduced to having represented the party secretariat. Don't we know about this inventory? Thank you very much.
Good morning once again. My name is Francis Luvega. I work for Radio Sapienza, and I'm the leader of opposition in Uganda Parliamentary Press Association. I was so shocked when my colleague, also the honorable member of Mpu of Mitiana, they're not recognizing me. I had him but that is on a light note. To start with the point of my colleague Mivule, the issue of your term, what is that inner feeling in you as this term comes to an end, the term of 2.5 years? What does that inner feeling tells you right now as the leader of opposition who's about to, as the term ends? Then the other thing is on the personal reflection. What is that turn-off point where you would maybe regret serving under this current regime of NRM as the leader of opposition? The other question from me is about how do you describe the current political jungle where you serve? Considering all political parties, how do you describe it with the intentions of trying to change the current regime to a democratic way of governance? I'm the Lop. Wait, I raise my questions. The third point for me will go to the report, a recent report on cooperatives. What is your personal view on the opposition MPs who are alleged to be on that list? Who are alleged to have embezzled some of the cooperative funds? Then my last point goes to Honorable Joel Senyonyi. How do you feel about the wonderful reports that you make in your committee, the recommendations that you make and later are not put into implementation? Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think, Sadeb, we respond to those questions because they're quite a number. So we'll have the leader of the opposition respond, and then the Honorable Joel Senyonyi will be responding to his question.
Thank you. The two media personalities that have asked questions. First of all, from Mr. Amvule, the opposition culture of handing over, that's not a problem. You know, certain norms are written, others are called peremptory norms. Okay, they're not written, but they become a matter of practice. But when they arise, they do not cause adrenalines to rise. And the leader of the opposition, I am part and partial of a political culture we are trying to grow, that when a change happens, it's not a crisis. It only becomes an obligation to an occupant of that public office to do good. And whoever is in office be supported by all and sundry to do their work. It is as simple as that. I don't think that should cause any adrenalines. Of course, I posed the media, like you observed. It was purposeful to appreciate the fact that the office has been profiled to a level more than ever before, that it causes debate, when actually the duty to do public good lies with the government. So the media has allowed the government to get away with the murder, with the corruption, lack of service, and paid attention to the opposition office that has no resources to implement to do services. I think as the editor, you question the wisdom of your reporters in laying, in concentrating. I have not seen a debate on failed service delivery by the Prime Minister and a failure to answer questions in Parliament, and running over the place singing Ikwepichi as the Prime Minister instead of looking for services, offering services to the people of Uganda. But I appreciate there are a few members in here. Mr. Ambule, we are dealing with adults. Well, many members communicated they were traveling back from Kigali. I'm human enough to understand that. But also, I can't rule out the fact that some members are already in a holiday mode. But I cannot be a person to compel people to be here. The only person that reached out to me was the Chief Whip, and he called me rushing home to sort out a family matter, and I can understand that. So when you meet them in the corridor, ask them where they were. That is their questions, not my question. Nobody from the party secretariat, you want to advise us on to invite here? Was that your intention? We did not invite them. As a media interaction between the office of the leader of the opposition and the media. I wanted this space to be occupied by members of Parliament. That's why you are free to fire at anyone here. If my party president was here, it would be about the party president. So we wanted this to be about Parliament, the opposition and the Parliament and their work. So feel free to fire to them. So when we have space when we want the party to be involved and discuss intra and extra party issues, we invite them. So I thought this space would best be occupied by the people the party sent here and obligated. In fact, I expect you to ask people to account for the obligations, to the duties given to them by the party, from within NUP and without. So that's why I wanted them to occupy this space. Maybe some of them have even never had occasion to account for their work. So this is their space. Allow them space to, if the Secretary General was here, it will be about him. When will a humble man like Joel get space to speak in the presence of his president? So that's why we choose. How will my man from Kagologolo, Chikuba Mutwe, Kayemba Solo have occasion to speak to the media in the presence of the president? So sometimes this space is gazetted for humble humans to also speak to the country. Kindly take it in that light. But whenever we do and whatever we do, we are obligated to inform as a matter of respect to the party secretariat. Mr. Francis Rubega from Sapientia, term of office, what is my inner feeling? I have expressed my inner feeling in my preambles here to you that we have worked, we have not withered, we have worked together. It's not easy to put together a team and that team delivers. We are a 6-party platform, and getting those people to work, these parties are founded on various ideological foundations. They come here with different objectives, but you must figure out a mechanism of filtering those objectives and consolidate them into a workable framework that will speak to the common voice of the opposition. So my inner feeling is that we have done a lot, but it's not yet uhuru. We would have had a sense of deja vu if we probably have delivered on our most critical objective of regime change. Okay? So I feel a sense of pride in how we've been able to consolidate the team amidst various challenges, including the regime poking at the opposition. Midway, you have some of the opposition party members cross. That's not a small thing, but when they cross, as the leader, you have a duty to gather the remaining team members to play their role effectively and well. So I think deeply that we have worked together amidst serious challenges. Remember, we started this work from a highly controversial, divisive, violent election. So this work began at the backdrop of that. And the country held its breath as well as the opposition, beaten, scattered, battered violently, will be able to assemble and have a sense of direction. So I'm here to state without a fear of contradiction that we have expressed ourselves well amidst these enormous challenges. I hope I have answered you. What is the turn off, or what do you mean the turning point or regret of serving at the law? I only regret I have not been Prime Minister. I should have been the Prime Minister, not the law. If you're asking the regret, because my party won the general election. So the regret was that we were not announced. How do you look at me as the Prime Minister of the Republic compared to being a law? Maybe things have been different. Otherwise, I cannot say that I regret being a law. It's a big honor to lead colleagues. It's a very huge responsibility. It's a huge honor. It's also an opportunity to show that actually you have a sense of understanding of this obligation. Okay? And that kind of responsibility, I cannot regret. I can't regret how I have been able to summon my basic skills to bear upon this responsibility and how the team has responded to my call, to my direction, to my guidance. I never grew up with any of the MPs. The people began to send to them here. They all came as adults. Nobody made 18 at swearing in. They all came as adults. So to be able to consolidate them and have an output for me was a huge responsibility, which I pride in as having executed, even in the face of a lot of challenges that I think are not necessarily insurmountable, but we have tried to do. How do you describe the current jungle? Describe it from all over the opposition actors, parties. I think it's not the opposition that is in a crisis. The country faces some form of existential threat as a nation state. The level at which political actors perceive responsibility is scary. And of course, the rate and the response of political players in the opposition is also a bit disturbing. Because of regime longevity, brutality and intolerance, some layers of the opposition have become a bit insipid and unresponsive to this obligation. I get the sense that some of our political layers are getting tired and they need a renewal. That's why you hear some people, some political actors, probably have begun subscribing to the regime, either out of lack of direction, either they are a little, uninspired to work differently. It's a huge duty, but all of us are obligated. In the face of the civic space that is being frozen, it becomes a huge obligation on anybody seeking to play a part in this space, to be strong, to self-express, to speak out strongly, and make their intentions known. The only problem a political actor can visit on this country is not making their intentions known, to grandstand, to appear to be serious when actually acting unseriously. So if you ask me, that's the challenge. And I challenge myself and all that intend to change the direction of this country to realize that we face a very serious challenge after a regime of 40 years to undo the evil that has been planted into this country, to kill the seed of intolerance, of corruption, of murder. Because the ongoing debate, for example, of human rights violations before, during, and after the 2021 general election, it is an attempt by the ruling party to settle a political score by coercion. It's an attempt to solve a political problem of the country using force. And this the country must reject. All the opposition political actors must understand the breadth of this problem and rise to reject the overtures of the ruling party to settle the political dispute using force. Your last question, the report of cooperatives. What do you make of the opposition member that we have mentioned? If a member was mentioned as having participated in this corruption, they should face the law. There's only one law in this land, and whoever is mentioned in the report must face the law. If they had no obligation, if there's no questions to answer, the law is sorted. Do you want me to write another report? The report is a public document. So I do not have anything to sympathize, or unless people should face the law, if they have questions to answer, they must answer them. Corruption is person to holder. Okay? It's not institutional that somebody is doing it so for the benefit of their community. So that and the other reports before Parliament where individuals have been implicated or indicted, they must face the law to the letter. I hope I have responded to the first set of questions. Mr. Chitata, would you want to?
And we'll have the Honorable Joel Senyonyi now.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, to respond to his question.
He's going to come here.
Yeah, he's going to come there. Yeah.
This is your platform.
Thank you, Lop. The question for me was, how do I feel when we do the work that we do, put together reports, and they are not acted upon? I don't get surprised. I don't. I actually get pleasantly surprised when sometimes there is some little action that is taken. That's when it is surprising, and that's what society has become, that when something good is done, you're surprised. For example, when we inquired into Uganda Railways Corporation, produced a report, 48 billion shillings that was absquatulated with the locomotives deal, a fake locomotives deal. We recommended that these people be fired and be prosecuted. The MD and the board were fired, but we have been waiting for prosecution. So they only implemented part of our recommendations because that's a lot of money. It's not enough to get somebody out of their office. We want action. When we investigated Uganda Land Commission, we found that titles were forged and people were paid billions of shillings. We successfully got some of those titles cancelled, but the money has not been reimbursed because we were saying the titles should be cancelled. These people must return that money because they got it fraudulently. So that has yet to happen. So you see that even when some recommendations are acted upon, it's only partial. Recently we handled UNBS and you saw the rot we unearthed, and we said no, these people must be fired. Some have been fired, including the MD, but we are waiting for prosecution because, as you saw, charges were being withdrawn and that kind of thing. So even when action gets to be taken, it's only partial. And yet there's a litany of other issues that we unearth and not much gets to be done. And you see, my insistence has always been this work that we do, because I do hear some say, these Senyonyis, the opposition people, they want to make government look bad. 70% of the members on my committee, COSASE, are actually NRM members. When we produce these reports and we table them on the floor of Parliament, one, all our reports, and we have had several reports, there has been no minority report. Number two, for all the reports that make their way to the floor, because as you know, some, for many reasons, don't make their way to the floor, even when they are there. But all those that do, they have been unanimously adopted by the whole House. So that's not my report anymore, it's a report of Parliament. And we have been saying, can we begin to take action if we are serious about corruption? My appeal to the leadership of Parliament has been, and continues to be, that let's begin to dig in our heels as Parliament and insist that action gets to be taken on our recommendations as Parliament. That way Parliament will begin to be taken seriously. Because if we don't do that and use the stick that we have, and the stick we have as Parliament is the appropriation stick. So if we say entity X, this and this happened, we want action A, B, C, D taken. When they don't take that action and they return during the budget process, like we are now in the budget process, when they return for appropriation, we should not release money to those entities until our recommendations have been acted upon. That's the only way Parliament will be taken seriously. But once we don't do that, we will not be taken seriously. And that's why Parliament can censure a minister and she will still come and sit on the front bench. In other words, saying, to hell with you guys. Why? Because we have not dug in our heels and taken ourselves seriously. So that's the appeal that I have always made and still make to Parliament and the leadership, that we need to be taken serious ourselves by insisting on action to be taken. Yeah, so that's just the situation that happens. But otherwise, we unearth many of these things. You, the media, you have always covered. You saw when we were handling Uganda Civil Aviation Authority and all the airport issues thereon, the famous Uganda Airlines. You all know what happened to that report with all the mess there was. Yeah, and recently I saw Uganda Airlines has made a lot more losses than they have in the past years. Because if you don't fix these issues, the entity will not thrive. These are not issues of NRM, opposition. No, these are issues about the country. One of the things we discovered about Uganda Airlines is people were recycling tickets. You buy a ticket for a Dubai trip, for example, some of these regular flyers, and the person uses that same ticket 10 times. Yeah, but you guys were there when we were covering these things. And it is in our report, which was denied audience on the floor. So people are recycling tickets because they were in cahoots with some of the managers. So the ticket is not closed in the system. So you use it over 10 times. How do you expect not to make losses? They were buying fuel through a middleman. The real source told us, well, for us we have no problem selling directly to Uganda Airlines. But if they don't want to buy from us, they want to buy from the middleman who has bought from us, that's their problem. So the middleman buys and then sells to Uganda Airlines about twice as much the price. And you later discovered who the middleman was. The very manager has created this, and many other issues, yeah? So if you don't fix these issues, and you think you're punishing Joel Senyonyi, you're punishing yourself. And I can say that for all these other entities that we inquired into. You saw with KCCA, they wanted to purchase 10 acres of land at $100 million. That's 370 billion. Meaning each acre to cost 37 billion to put traders. Even in Dubai, an acre does not cost that. And I saw them coming back to Parliament saying, you know, please avail this money to KCCA and so on. What is wrong is wrong. Yeah, and then several others. I'll not take too much time, but the direct response is we don't get surprised when action is not taken, but we need to keep insisting as Parliament that action gets to be taken. If we are serious about this phrase of zero tolerance to corruption, then let's take action. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Joel Senyonyi, the chairperson of COSASE. And we are going into another set of questions. I would like to welcome the Honorable Hassan Chirumira, the Member of Parliament for Katikamu South, the Deputy Imam of Parliament, and also our representative to the IOC. We would like to welcome the Honorable Abed Bwanika, the Member of Parliament for Chibanya Kawonera in Masaka City, and our Shadow Minister for Agriculture. You're welcome. We'd like to welcome the Honorable Hilary Chiyaga, Dr. Hildeman, Maokota North, and our Shadow Minister for Arts and Culture. We'd like to welcome the Honorable Aloysius Mokasa, the MP for Rubaga South. You're very welcome. We'd also like to welcome the Honorable Stephen Serubula, who is the Member of Parliament for Rugazi Municipality. You're welcome. And would like to welcome the Honorable Kayemba Solo, the Member of Parliament for Kamansimbi South. He is our Shadow Minister for Sports. I don't know if he will be able to speak English today. He says the Lop normally has his English, and the Lop has spoken most of it today, so I don't know. The Honorable Lucy Akelo, Vice Chairperson COSASE, is here from the Forum for Democratic Change. And I can see the Honorable Alan Sewanyana is also, he actually came much earlier, so he's here with us. You're welcome. We should go into the other session of the questions. I will be welcoming more members of Parliament as they come in. Thank you. Sir, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Paul Kayonga. I work with NBS Television. I have a few questions to the leader of the opposition. Weshitiwa, you are supposed to keep the Prime Minister in close check. How do you rate your immediate recent relationship with the leader of government business on the floor of Parliament, and what is the way forward? Another question is, the opposition in Parliament has come under a lot of pressure and scrutiny, more than maybe ever before, I don't know. Do you consider this criticism and pressure justified, especially to you as an individual or your team as a group? And how do you evaluate the relationship between the opposition in Parliament and actors outside Parliament, actors like in the civil society, religious leaders and others, in as far as the opposition operations are concerned? Another question is, what is the most important activity you should start with in a new session of the term in Parliament, bearing in mind what has happened in the last 2.5 years? Weshitiibwa nja kusaba nti ebibuuzo ebyo obijje mu lunnabuddu olubisse mu lw'emawokota engeri gye tuli kufulayo palamenti ab'amasengejje basobole obifuna bulungi.
Do you think we should first respond to those, or? Oh, okay. So those were many questions, about 4 of them. He needs to respond to those, and then other people ask. I would request you, members of the press, if someone has asked a question and you think that was your question, because of time, to not ask again, unless you need a clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paul Kayonga, for that litany of questions. Your gun was there loaded. First of all, the first question, how do I view, rate, evaluate the Prime Minister and how we relate? First of all, the role of the Prime Minister and that of the leader of the opposition are well articulated in the law and practice. And these roles have not changed. Probably what is confusing in our jurisdiction, that the framers of our law and the common practice in Parliament, there was an attempt to mimic Parliament, like the British Parliament, which is basically not presidential, and therefore the Prime Minister has the last word on every matter. And because ours is probably quasi-presidential, half parliamentary, these roles tend to be mixed up. And I can understand why many a time the Prime Minister of the Republic looks to be on 7s and 9s on issues in Parliament. And I can't blame her. To be particular, I hesitate to attack her individuals. I don't know how to rate her because she has since run away from Parliament. I have not seen her in a very long time. When she comes, she moves in briefly and runs away. So I thought she would have the strength to face me and answer my questions. But we have not had a good occasion for me to rate her. So I don't know her abilities yet since she ran away from Parliament. I've not seen her in a long while. Ever since we demanded the Chibalama from her. She ran away with Chibalama's blood on her hands. She has not appeared again. But to be precise, that office is very important. And in jurisdictions where the Prime Minister has the last word, how you answer questions in Parliament is definitive of your work as the Prime Minister. But in our case, because it's a mixed arrangement, quasi-presidential, quasi-parliamentary, the Prime Minister can run away without answering questions. Sometime in August, I tabled a litany of 50 unanswered questions by the Prime Minister and her ministers. Failure to answer 50 questions from Parliament, I don't think is a credit to any Prime Minister. If the Prime Minister cannot answer, and she cannot pretend over her ministers to answer, I don't know how to read that. I don't know how to call that. For lack of superlatives, probably the media has better flowery language to describe that. But in my space, I actually do not know what she does on a daily basis. I don't know whether that answers you. It's a wide-ranging question, and I really, with due respect to the Honourable Prime Minister, she needs to be available in Parliament, and she needs to be capacitated, and I'm using the word capacitated purposefully to come and respond to questions raised by members. I have seen, for example, a number of occasions, the presiding officers struggling to cover up for the Prime Minister, struggling to answer questions that are supposed to be answered by ministers. I have seen the speakers trying to answer for the Prime Minister. That's not acceptable. The Prime Minister should have that capacity. If he doesn't have it, she must be capacitated by her technical team, by her colleagues, the ministers, to respond to questions raised by Parliament. Because it frustrates Parliament and the work of members of Parliament when their questions cannot be answered, and the Prime Minister is solely responsible. Mr. Kayonga, ask the Prime Minister to hold a media conference like this one to answer your questions. I don't know why they don't. They should appear and answer questions. Parliament is not responsible for her work. Under the doctrine of separation of powers, the presiding officers have no locus answering for the Prime Minister. They should be able, the Prime Minister should be able to respond to members' questions. So the last session leaves several unanswered questions. Hopefully we shall follow them up in the coming session. The opposition has been under scrutiny immensely. Do you find fair, justified? How do you evaluate this? Okay. Yeah, the pressure. I said this briefly in my preamble, that this office has been under scrutiny, and we do not take offense for that scrutiny. It is a testimony to public expectation of the opposition, because the opposition posits possibilities for the country to be better, and therefore we should have a follow-up of what we postulate. And the scrutiny helps us to be better, and also to look into our own internal abilities, our priorities as the opposition, how we deploy our troops, how we prioritize the work on the floor, in the shadow cabinet, in the committees that we lead. The scrutiny is about that, and we do not really take it as offensive. We consider it as a matter that elevates our work to serious work of this nation. And I want to invite the media not to relent on that scrutiny. It makes us better citizens and better leaders of our common peoples. Whether it comes, of course, sometimes I have seen criticism informed by lack of information. And I've always asked the media that if you have a void of information, the Lop has never shied away from facing the media to answer to questions as a matter of clarifying gray areas, misinformed positions, propositions, including rumors. Because public space cannot be a space of rumors. It must be a space of utmost clarity. That is what we are here for. So I want to invite you to find it fair enough to interact with us. I have had a very good relationship with the media, and we believe it's very okay. Mr. Chitata and the Honorable Joyce have been extremely helpful, probably because of their knowledge of how the media works, and probably how the media can shortchange public debate to a certain way. They have that knowledge, whether deliberately or unknowingly. The media is so critical in shaping public debate. That's why the media can shape debate away from government failure to office of the leader of the opposition. It's that critical. That it can change the information away. We are discussing gross violation of human rights, and the media picks when is the opposite term ending. When we are demanding for missing persons, people detained without trial for several months. That's how important the media is, that it can choose the nature of debate away from critical issues to a person. You know, it's very, very critical, and we respect the media for that, because they can shape debate. Of course, Paul, certain forms of criticism do not come from mainstream media, they come from pseudo media. We have an emergence of pseudo media where there is no editor, where the sources are not disclosed, but pure blackmail. Of course, we have had to deal with the blackmail, intended and the ignorantly premised. It's also part, we must align, and I invite colleagues to align themselves to get to understand the emergence of informal media and how it can be used to peddle blackmail that can actually get you off your seat and preoccupies you. I think I have been trying to orient my colleagues to grow a second layer of skin to simply do the right thing, even when there's blackmail flying all over the space, because at the end of the day, we shall not be held accountable for the blackmail, but for the public duty, the huge public duty to which we are answerable to the citizenry. How do we relate with actors in civil society and other entities? I must say, in 2022, I authored a wide-ranging document, which was a statement of the Lop on the floor of Parliament on the shrinking civic space in the country. And one of the key tenets of that statement was that civil society has been muzzled. Remember when DGF packed and left? That was a turning point in the work of non-state actors, non-government actors, including media. I am aware of private media actors that closed at the departure of DGF, and so many media practitioners rendered unemployed because of that. That was a message sent to civil society to behave themselves, in other words. And that's why in that document I make out a clarion call to all and sundry to rise and defend public space. It is that has in a way constrained how we would have loved to work with civil society and other non-state actors. I am not saying that they have been compromised, but they have been rendered to go into a corner of survival. And somebody fighting for survival is unable to fight a state. When people go into the survival rung, they become disempowered to act on so many things. We have been reaching out to civil society in a lot of our off-site trainings that have been active, but we still want to see more. We want to see the civil society. We want to see religious institutions, cultural institutions joined on the platform to fight for this civic space. Free media. The media has been involved in self-censorship because of fear of reprisal from the regime. You know how the NGO Act has been dangled to stifle space for NGOs, and how UCC has been weaponized to weaken private media. So these are very, very compelling issues. They constrain the way we would have loved to roll out with non-state actors. We have received messages of support from NGOs, civil society, especially those that are involved in the governance. We want to do more. But of course the opposition has an obligation to roll out a program that these non-state actors will follow. Our programs themselves are a motivator or a demotivator of how these non-state actors work. We need to do better and more to enjoin them in potentially non-dangerous activities. So many NGOs are paper tigers. If you ask them to write, they will write. And if you ask them to practically get involved, that's probably a big asking. They may not participate. You may have to look out for non-dangerous activities in which they will comfortably participate. And then the political actors may roll out into the dangerous murky waters. But there's a lot to do. Finally, you did ask what will be the most important activity to roll out in the coming year. Nothing is less important, but what is most important is the sanctity of human life. Over the last 2 months, if you recollect, my first statement in the 11th Parliament, when we were still sitting in the tent, my first statement officially on record was a statement of 432 missing persons. Effectively, we are where we started from. It was my first statement, we are still where we started from. From 432, we are now looking for 18 missing persons. Of course, the media has covered variously how there are close to 300 plus reappeared. Those detained for several months, dumped with broken limbs, dumped with wounds, you know. Several have been dropped, there are others in jail. The opposition in and outside Parliament cannot prioritize anything else without fighting for the right to belong, the right to associate. The political prisoners, as we know them, those in the court-martial and other courts on fictitious charges, these are prisoners of conscience, and they're there simply because they dared the status quo. That should be the starting point everywhere, not even next year. It's part of what we are here to rally the country for. I expect this to be the clarion call on Christmas Day or New Year's Day by whoever cares about humanity and the future of this country. So this will be very, very important. Just imagine, Paul, that if we leave this alone and we know the genesis of this, that this was engendered by an attempt at power grab by the regime to really scare people from associating, and then the following day we are busy canvassing support for the next election without putting this to an end. We must put this to an end. We must compel all actors to respect the right to associate, to respect pluralism, that we can never be the same people, that people hold different views and those views must be respected, whether they favor us or not. This we must assert ourselves upon. And then the other issues will follow, like electoral reforms and the rest, as long as there is general appreciation of the fact that we are a pluralistic nation and therefore the various views must be respected regardless.
Thank you, Right Honourable Lop. And I'd like to propose that the Luganda version be given in a summary at the end of the English. I think that would work. So I'd like to welcome the Honourable Joab Businje Awoli. He's the MP for Masindi Municipality. You're welcome. I'd also like to welcome, I have seen Dr. Biakatonda, who is the Workers MP. Oh yes, he's around. You're welcome. We are very pleased to see you. I would like to welcome the Honourable Okin Pipi Ojara from Chwa West. Thank you for coming. I will go into another set of questions. Please keep them short, precise, to the point, and if someone has asked the question, kindly don't repeat. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Arthur Wadero. I write for the Daily Monitor, commonly known as the Bad Paper. I have 3 questions. One is to do with the electoral reforms. Around June, your office convened in Munyonyo, and a number of things were put to the audience. Discussions came up, and if you correct me if I'm wrong, I remember at the end of the session, there was a promise that there would be teams going around the country to collect opinions and voices of those that had not had the chance to convene in Munyonyo, so that would get a comprehensive position on that. So my question is, what is the update as far as electoral reforms are concerned? The second question is to do with unity, solidarity in your camp. On several occasions, your office has had boycotts, for example, in the House plenary, and there have been observations that some members still working attend plenary, even when the other members have voted to stay away. I don't know what you make of that. You may have hinted on that, but my specific question is, what is your specific response or comment on that? And then the third question is, yes, you stated it in passing, but yes, throughout the 2.5 years, there are a number of things, so many of them, the successes that you've registered under your office. But from where you sit, what are those major ones, maybe 5 or 3, that you really look back and say, those were really pronounced as far as my office is concerned to the people? And if I should be specific in terms of maybe tangible or very, very, very specific successes. Yes, I ask this because on several occasions your office has put questions to the side of government, pressing questions, and most of them either there have been responses and either there have been promises to respond. So my question is, from where you sit, what are those major ones? Thank you.
Thank you very much for according me this opportunity. My name is Didan Kimathi, and New Vision is where I work. We've taken concern of your taken concern of what you raised, and we shall do better. That's our promise. But straight to the point. Personally, I would like you to just give me a fitting description of this building in which we are. Is it should we say that it is doing the job as it ought to be, as it's supposed to be doing, like this whole parliamentary institution? Is it playing its part? Is it captured? Is it washed down, or it has been shortchanged? The reason I'm saying this is because the voices on the street differ from those in this house. We've recently seen a number of sleek cars, getting distributed, and people out there asking themselves, yes, you've put the questions to government, and it's not responding. It's like the other side only responds to those it needs. It doesn't respond to the concerns of the citizens. Perhaps if you could talk about the whole essence of having this entire institution called Parliament, and whether it is still playing its cardinal role.
Didan, please, thank you. Actually, Honorable Joel has answered part of that, but it's okay. Any other question? Please, precise, kindly.
Thank you so much. My name is Hasif. I work with BBS TV. The Honorable, thank you so much. We all remember that sometime in July last year, we had scandals of 40 million bribe that, some members of parliament under allegations received this money, and some returned, some went silent. Of recent, we just heard from the president of the National Unity Platform, who is your boss, throwing light on the 100 million bribe that is yet, or some have even received under allegation. I don't know the issue of corruption, you highlighted on it, but I need more on that. Is it a question of credibility, trust? Have you mentored them well in terms of what to do and what not to do? And then number 2, we've had some corridor conversation that there are discussions, of course, it has been happening, that leaders of opposition are changed. Have you, according to what you had planned, is it a job well done, or you still need a second half?
So that after that, the Lop will respond, and then we have, I think, a final one. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Teopista Nakamia. I write for Okede. Lop, what is your message to the new Lop if you're not reappointed? Thank you.
Yes, the Lop can respond to those, and after that we'll have the final round of the questions and the Lop will go into Luganda. I'd like to welcome in a very special way also Mr. Mpuuga Alex. Mr. Mpuuga Alex is the Chief News Editor, CBS FM 88.8. You're welcome. And I'd like to also welcome Ms. Narubwama Annette, Deputy News Editor, CBS. You are welcome. Botwazirunda. Mr. Katabira Daniel, Deputy News Editor, CBS, you're all welcome and thank you so much for the support. You're welcome, Lop, to respond to those questions.
Thank you. That's why this interaction is very, very useful. And politicians must live for this and more. If you're not able to position yourself to be able to respond
The Honorable, thank you so much. We all remember that sometime in on it, but I need on it, but I need more on it, but I need more on that. Is it a question of credibility, trust? Have you mentored them well in terms of what to do and what not to do? And then number two, we've had some corridor conversation that there are discussions, of course, it has been happening, that leaders of opposition are changed. Have you, according to what you had planned, is it a job well done or you still need a second half?
So that after that, the Lop will respond, and then we have, I think, a final one. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Teopista Nakamia. I write for Okede. Lop, what is your message to the new Lop if you're not reappointed? Thank you.
Yes, the Lop can respond to those, and after that we'll have the final round of the questions and the Lop will go into Luganda. I'd like to welcome in a very special way also Mr. Mpuuga Alex. Mr. Mpuuga Alex is the Chief News Editor, CBS FM 88.8. You're welcome. And I'd like to also welcome Ms. Narubwama Annette, Deputy News Editor, CBS. You are welcome. Botwazirunda. Mr. Katabira Daniel, Deputy News Editor, CBS, you're all welcome and thank you so much for the support. You're welcome, Lop, to respond to those questions.
Thank you. That's why this interaction is very, very useful. And politicians must live for this and more. If you're not able to position yourself to be able to respond
byebyo Mathias Mpuuga nsamba.
That was a mistake on our part and seek new direction. For me as the opposition, it's been a very, very serious matter, but to really probably warm your spirit, we have worked differently. Probably I've never seen the opposition in the countryside trying to relate to the people and bring out the failure of governance and the failure of government promises. You have seen regime operatives running up and down like headless chickens over how we work as the opposition. Of course, my members have moved so many motions. We have enlisted some of them. I am sure my Shadow Minister of Local Government is very proud. The Honorable Nalima, she moved a motion that changed the way the PFMA is implemented to allow local governments to retain their funds. You've had local governments very happy that this financial year they received an extra 1 billion to construct roads. That was the opposition trying to help service delivery. Actually, we did that after our country visit. We said we need to do something differently. Those are measures. We caused the Bujagali investigation and saved the hemorrhage of taxpayers' money. I mean, we have done this. We have invested so many of these things. There are so many, they are written. Because I hesitate to try and trumpet small gains. Some of these are duties. We do not intend to put flowers atop of them because they represent our duty as the opposition. And when we make these small gains, there must be a stepping ground for the opposition to even work more, not to move around chest stamping for small gains. So that's why I have not had occasion to rank what we do. But probably the public out there is able to appreciate and rank what they think. You see, if you sampled out there, everybody has their favorite, you know? So maybe on another day I'll ask my team to rank it, or even ask the media to opinion poll it. It will be probably a better approach. But in all said and done, my sense is that amidst enormous tribulations, we've been able to direct the entire lights of the country towards what the opposition is doing. I think that is a major. Forget about what it was about. For good or worse, the opposition is pile driving the national agenda, and we cannot relent on that. Be done, my good friend. What the fitting description of this building and what it does? I wish I was a poet. I would have found the right, you know, phrases, idioms to describe Parliament, but rather settle for what parliaments are for. And no parliament works like the other. Parliaments differ. And in our space, part of the reason why there's no comparison is because you don't have the same actors. Just imagine the fact that if there's an election of some sort, probably you'll not see 85% of MPs in the next parliament. That attrition rate alone brings with it all issues, character, motivation, appetite, mention it. So therefore you cannot do a proper comparison of how these parliaments work. You can only baseline it on the duties of parliament. And I hastily say that it's not yet uhuru for parliament. There's a lot to do. But part of it is how people come to parliament. So you have people here who are never elected by people. So you have members of parliament who were sworn in, but they were never elected. They just found themselves here, occupying space. But they have no public mandate. They don't feel obligated to act with prudence. I don't know how to rank how they work. I have a duty to remind, to mentor, to supervise my members on how they work. I have tried, but these are adults. Most importantly, what you do, how you do it, is a matter of personal probity. A litany of rules, the objectives of our parties can be really written and given to you. They can even form the screenshot of your phone. But your actions are definitive of your personal probity as an individual. I think Parliament has to do a lot to undertake a redemption of the collective. In Parliament, unlike Cabinet, there is no collective responsibility. But you can also say there is no collective guilt. Every member of Parliament must account for their personal actions. Of course, the party, because you come under a party umbrella, the party has a duty to align you to its objectives. And that's not a duty you can delegate. As a leader in NUP, I contend we have tried to guide our people. Many of our members are new. They had to learn how to navigate the intricate corridors of power where we live every day. I told them that, in our meeting, I told them that these corridors you see are very small, but they can carry a trailer. You know, a trailer can move through those corridors. That's how equally small and big they are. And therefore, when you move in, you must take care of your movements and where you sit. So it's a duty. You've made mention of the example of sleek cars that are being bought. I think you're making reference to the cars that are bought to the previous speakers. First of all, the House, the Parliamentary Commission, I think, was responding to the law, because the law was amended to make provision for these former speakers. The issue I have, and I think this matter must be debated in the Commission, and also have an opinion of the Attorney General of the Republic, namely, at what stage must one take a benefit of these parks? I think it's a question of interpreting the law. Can somebody take a benefit when they still have the extra benefit, when they still have a lien on the public pass? That's a question that the legal minds must break down. For instance, my old friend, the Right Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, a former speaker, deputy speaker, then speaker, but still a government minister, meaning that she has still access to the public pass, and therefore she's not entirely retired. So is the Right Honorable Sekandi, who is a former vice president and a former speaker. The question is, if she's finally retired, what parks does it take? That of a former vice president, former speaker, or both? And then you see the presidential advisor, so that therefore he has access to the public part of my members. So I'll be able to advise the pen. I don't have a text of advice or a book bank. No. Advice depends on character and personality. So I'll be able to advise depending on the person that will come. I hope I have answered you. Mr. Chitata, let members ask their last leg of
questions. Exactly. We are going into the last leg of the questions. Honourable members and members of the press, we have just a few minutes to come to the close of this. But allow me to welcome the Honourable Nyakato Asnansi, the Member of Parliament for Hoima City. You are welcome. She's also our Shadow Minister for Energy. We'd like to welcome the Honourable Katabazi Francis, the Member of Parliament for Kalungu West. He's Kalungu East and the Shadow Minister for East African Affairs. You are welcome. The Honourable Saz Godfrey is a member from Gomba East. You are welcome. Allow me to also welcome the Honourable Wakaima Musoke, the Member of Parliament for Nansana Municipality. Thank you for being part of this. And in a special way, the President of the Uganda Parliamentary Press Association, Sam Ibanda Mugabe, is with us. Thank you so much for the support and for working with us. The last set of questions today
has a huge responsibility to itself first. Itself. To offer hope away with blood on their hands. And to General Museveni, aware of your promise to the nation 37 years ago, you cannot remain a head of a state presiding over disappearance of humans and still claim to be in charge. You cannot claim to condemn the past regimes, to condemn Idi Amin, the current system with the reincarnation, the rebirth of the Amin times, probably even worse. Whatever happened during Idi Amin has been replayed. by this regime. So, Mr. Museveni, you have a chance to redeem your legacy by producing the missing persons and also holding those who occasioned the disappearances accountable. Have them charged for these crimes against humanity. Mr. Alex Nsubuga, the Gomba land evictions and the mafioso that has become the hallmark of land in this nation. I have spoken before about land matters. They are part of my record in Parliament, in the statements I've authored and shared with Parliament. And land is not just a fact of
for good relationship, and I hope it will continue. Thank you.
Mathias Mpuuga nsamba nebyayisemu nebyakoze ebbanga lyamazenga Lop ebiganye nebituukiridde byonna ensonga muziwulidde bulungi era azinnyonnyodde bulungi buli kimu n'akibogera yana biki ebiddako okulaba nga tutereeza eggwanga lyaffe Uganda n'okulaba nga gavumenti ejenero Kaguta Museveni ate efuuka lufumo tufune gavumenti efa ku bantu, gavumenti eyagaliza era gavumenti etali nzibi, gavumenti etali njaye, gavumenti etatta, gavumenti etawamba etabuzawo bantu etwetaaga. Kale byebyo tujja kuddamu tuwayo ebigambo mbagala nnyo mwenna abaliko Omukama Katonda abankuumire bataayi mweraba.